So how professionals compete in international level at the moment, and how is the condition now in the era of ASEAN Economic Community? Let's chat more with Chief Product Officer of Seek Asia, Jake Andrew. Hi, Jake.
Hi, Tommy.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So first, how's the trend right now in terms of employment in Asia?
It varies quite a lot between different markets. Singapore, for example, is going down. It's a fairly weak market, so harder to get a job. But Philippines is particularly strong for us, and job opportunities there for candidates are certainly looking good. For Indonesia, it's quite an interesting situation. I know the economy here is relatively weak, but year on year we have 36% more jobs than we did last year. And so despite a slowing economy, we have more opportunities for candidates than we did a year ago.
So what are the supporters with the condition actually?
What are the supporters?
Yes, like what kind of benchmark are we seeing here? What did help the condition at that point to make unemployment rate in Indonesia actually increasing?
So part of this is a measurement issue, but it's also really reflecting an online migration of jobs. So in the last few years, Jakarta has really become an online labour marketplace, but outside Jakarta, that's still in fairly early stages. So we are seeing growth that now outside Jakarta in the larger cities of Indonesia.
In what sector?
It varies quite a lot. Generally, it relates to the high employment sectors. So certainly things like accounting, general accounting, cost control, retail, sales and retail, business development, marketing, HR. Those are the main classic categories we see.
How about in financial sector, in terms of like banking or probably like the conventional ones?
Yeah, those still remain strong. We have a great deal of jobs there, a great deal of candidates. It's a relatively stable environment. We haven't seen anything dramatic occurring there.
Well, if focusing on the Indonesian perspective, but how about the Indonesian labor who work overseas, for example, maybe in ASEAN perspective?
The ASEAN rules and growing community is going to affect labor a different way. Some candidates are going to have significant impact and others will not. I think for the vast majority of workers there won't be an impact for Indonesian workers, but there will certainly be a group of specialist and senior candidates who, if they have the right qualifications, right kind of skills, can perform at the right level, will be more internationally marketable, and we'll probably see over time a growing regional market for people with those internationally marketable skills.
Okay, now let's look at on your data, but 10 job applications, for example, like in the slide here, like several, for example, healthcare is one of, in terms of the number of the application there. Can you explain more about it?
Sure. There are a certain number of jobs where we might not have a great number of jobs, but the number of candidates that are applying is less. So what you're seeing now on screen are those jobs where the competition from other candidates is lower. So it is relatively easy for a candidate to find a job in those particular ones that we have listed here.
And including healthcare? Particularly
healthcare, yeah. And nurses, that's an international shortage as well.
And that occurs in Indonesia as well?
Yes, yes. Healthcare workers are one of the most hard to find positions from an employer point of view, or one of the relatively easy or less competitive jobs to get from a candidate point of view.
In terms of competition now, do you think like Indonesian workers or professionals can compete in a good way in terms of international?
Again, I think it varies quite a lot depending on type of skills. So for most generic roles, I don't even know if that's really going to be a valid question. I don't think someone in a clerical role is going to go and work internationally. But for specialist and senior roles, that increasingly is the case, and they are going to have to do that. Candidates that can perform, that are really top tier, will be able to compete internationally, and increasingly will either immigrate or have to be offered similar benefits when working in Indonesia. This could well put pressure on employers in Indonesia who are employing people who are quite internationally mobile.
Any other, strategies for Indonesian workers in terms of, to enhance their competitiveness, for example?
Sure. There are several things that we're doing. We have a new product that we're launching that's quite interesting called Company Reviews. That will be live in a few weeks' time. What we're doing is getting current and previous candidates to review their workplace. And so for candidates to be better off, what they should be doing when we launch this in a few weeks is to research a potential employer, actually understand what the good and bad things are to work there, understand what previous employees have said about the place. And so that would prepare them better for the interview. It would help them research potential organizations as well.
And how do you manage the communication after you launch it?
So candidates will write a review. They will all be posted live on our website. There is a moderation process to make sure that there's anything that's inappropriate that goes live. But we will put positive and negative comments quite transparently on the site. The hirer has the ability to reply to those posts. That's going to be an interesting feature, and curious to see how employers rate that. Ultimately, what we would like is every single worker who's looking to change jobs in Indonesia to come to the site to see if their potential new employer is actually reviewed. And we would like to have reviews on every workplace in Indonesia. That will take us years, but certainly the bigger employers we would hope to get there pretty soon to have a really interesting way to have real insight and help candidates make proper career decisions.
All right, just one last question. So when are you going to launch it?
We don't have a date yet.
Okay.
That will depend on the response we get. We have to have adequate scale of reviews there to present good value.
All right, Jake Andrews, thank you so much for being here in the marketplace.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.